art in general, because we want to express and, you know, get that sort of understanding from the viewer and feel a connection. Human contact is important to me, the sharing of emotions, and the places don't really matter. Like, there's not one place I've always wanted to visit. I'm more about, you know, interactions with humans and discovering the self and you know, what we have in common. I've traveled around the country a little bit. I've lived in Colorado, California, Arkansas. I've traveled a bit, considering I'm a small town Kansas girl. And, you know, the places are beautiful, but the people are kind of all the same. The human representation in my art, a lot of it is me. I do a lot of self-portraits, which seems, you know, to some people it might be a little vain, but it's actually an exploration of myself and how I interact with the outside world, you know, and my internal world. Does it match? I mean, sometimes no. Do I want it to change? Absolutely. And a lot of my self-portraits are to sort of manifest things that I wish I was or that I wish I wasn't, like to sort of just empty that mental garbage out. And portraits of other people I've done, typically they're very significant to me. I've done a lot of my 3 children and sort of expressing my wishes for them and yeah, just what I hope they can experience in life. That's what it comes out. You know, I've done a few of friends that I've had. Typically, the portraits that aren't me or my family members are of people who have shown me kindness without any expectation of anything in return. There's one portrait I've done, she sort of exists as a mother figure, like by proxy, because my mother and I were not that close. But this woman, she exhibits the characteristics I guess I would like in a mother. I wish I could have had, and a sort of non-judgmental openness to her, you know, and accepting. And she, you know, she was a stranger basically. She had no reason to do any of that. There was no payoff for her to do that. You know, it was just sort of out of the kindness of her heart. I don't have a lot to offer. Like, I'm closed off emotionally. Like, I don't, you know, I'm socially awkward. And I have this art to, you know, that's what I have to offer. So I'm definitely going to include those people that have offered me a kindness. And yeah, they're sacred. And their art now, there's more of an honesty in the youth these days. They're more resistant to, you know, propaganda, consumerism, that idea that you have to, you know, in order to be productive, you must buy things. There's a transparency to, you know, emotional health and you know, manipulation in general that the youth is really uncovering. Collaboration is kind of a dirty word to me. I've known a lot of people here and there, especially, you know, fellow artists who want to collaborate, and it ends up being a sort of, like, I don't know, I've experienced a lot of takers in my life, I guess, people who want things from me, and with you know, and I definitely openly give, but it's like, you know, if you're a drain, then no. Like, if somebody comes to me, you want to collaborate? It's like, why? Why is a good question. Like, is it good? Like, what's going on here? That's a really good question, because, I mean, I'm kind of a lone wolf, too. Like, I tend to see people as they are pretty quickly. I can see through a really friendly facade and realize that they're really, you know, a lot of people are just to take. Try to avoid that. So collaboration is a dirty word for me, for sure. Probably gonna piss some people off with that, but whatever. They're already pissed anyway. So aspirations, I try to avoid those. Like, those are like sort of a version of expectations of myself. I had a lot of those early on, and I had to drop them because they all, yeah, got destroyed. So the fewer aspirations or expectations I have, typically, you know, opens the door for things that I wouldn't even have thought could happen, like shows or people actually buying my art. I never would have, yeah, it didn't cross my mind until somebody said, hey, can I buy that? I was raised in a secular household, like I said, so I had no pressure to go Christian or this way or that way or anything like that. I was, you know, open to investigate the occult, which I loved. I mean, I've loved that since I was a kid. I've always been sort of like on the dark side of stuff, like it's this mystery. Yeah, in high school I went through a goth phase, I think, you know, of course. And I looked into Wiccan stuff and yeah, Green Witch stuff and all that thing. So it definitely influenced me for that. There's a pattern there for sure where I go into sort of a trance, and there's sort of a manifestation of the art. It's kind of sacred. It's almost like I am sort of a channel. The filters, the facades, they sort of just go, and there's a channel straight from, I described it to one person before who asked me, a lot of times when I do art, I envision this door in the back of my mind, and I just open it and I walk right out, and then I do art. I have a pretty cultivated upstairs. Like, my mind does, it's probably a coping mechanism from some sort of childhood trauma or something. But yeah, it's that I spend a lot of time in my head, and it's a place. It's definitely a place and a time. With art, that's one of the main things, is my escape place, my safe place, I can actually manifest into reality, and people will pay for that. It's a bizarre dynamic I've stumbled upon. People want to pay for my safe place. People hang my safe place on their walls at home. Because I hope it's theirs too, or it helps them create their own. There are many self-portraits I've done that are, pulling back the curtain of some of the self-destructive tendencies I have. I did one that's called The Void, where I'm unzipping myself and it's just blackness underneath. Like, there was this phase where I felt like literally I was, I felt comfort somehow in the void where there was nothing. I was okay with that. That was, preferable to reality at that time for me. Other aspiring artists, please, please, please do not listen to anything anyone says about anything you do. Just fucking do it. Just do it. Do it, do it, do it. Other people's opinion is none of your fucking business. It just isn't. You have to get to that mindset of where, there's going to be so many people that tell you, don't do this, you're not going to make it. Why are you even doing that? Don't listen to them. Do the opposite. People who give advice to someone who's doing something for themselves, that advice isn't for that person. That advice is for the person that's giving the advice. That's one of the main things I've learned, is if somebody's giving me advice, that advice isn't for me, it's for them. Fuck off, man. Go take your own advice. The only thing I can pull to describe my artistic style is for what other people have said. That's really, for some reason, I don't want to label my own, I guess, or something. I don't know. I want it to stay fluid for me. But what other people have said, I guess, is one of the main ones is it's psychedelic. And I'm going to go on a tangent here, but a lot of people assume that I've done like psychedelics. I'm just like this, drugs are, whatever the fuck. And it's like, actually, no, I've never done a psychedelic in my life, and I wouldn't, because I already have whatever natural components that allow access to whatever psychedelics do. They're already up here, and I don't need to open those doors where I can't close them. One of the things that influences my art directly is the fact that I enjoy darkness, whether that means like emotional darkness or literal darkness or the dark, underbelly of nature, the creepy crawly things that people don't appreciate, because there's a light in it. I used to, like Van Gogh, but he had some issues. Salvador Dali was kind of a dick. They're respectable in their art, but as human beings, a lot of those old farts were kind of shitheads. Picasso, what an asshole. He was a great artist, his philosophy applied to art, wonderful, but, it was, it's not a nice dude. I don't like humans. I like colors. I like sunlight. I think that the things that are commonly unloved or viewed as ew, gross, disgusting, I actually kind of favor those things because it's real. It's not this facade that, humans like to put on as what reality is. It's not reality. I like to find, inspiration in the mundane, like moss or a rock, or, I think there's a whole universe right inside that thing if you just direct your focus there and look at just the most basic things around you. It's a magical fucking world. You don't have to put, fairies in the garden is the magic. Death is something that people often avoid. It's actually, important. It's a thing to really hold and carry in your pocket and say hello to often. So you actually live versus just a zombie consumer. Why have a life where you just want to escape from on the weekend? You want to take a vacation from your fucking life? No. Make the life that is fulfilling. Demand it. You have to demand it. When I stopped giving a shit about what anybody thought, even myself at points, things sort of just opened up. Like when I felt like I had absolutely nothing and I was nothing, that's when the potential for anything popped up. That's why, I'm definitely a fan of the void and that idea too. Where there's nothing, there's actually the seeds for any fucking thing you can even imagine. Music has always been a vital component in everything about my art. I went through a pretty rough time about 4 years ago, and I just nonstop listened to music, and I just had to explore every avenue of anything that even hit a little note with me. And it's definitely something that I have on when I do art. Music is a requirement in my life. It's a huge influence on everything I do. I think art chose me. I always liked to doodle and draw and paint as a child into my adulthood, but I never took it seriously until I started having like some significant dark emotions after a large life change I had to deal with. They had to come out somehow, and I tried to choose the most positive way to get those out, and it was art. And I didn't necessarily go about it like, oh, how am I going to sell this? Are people going to buy this? No, it's more like I have to get this out of my mind, and it needs to, get cleansed in some fashion. And lo and behold, somebody wanted to buy it. So yeah, I'm definitely more experimental now. I've always wanted to do, multimedia pieces where there's almost found objects put into it. And I'm twiddling my thumbs right before I start that. Like that's definitely what I'm transferring into. I feel like transitioning into starting to use found objects and even maybe some sculpting and stuff. Because I just recently started adding like a sort of sculpting to some of my pieces. I'm really excited about that. So yeah, it has definitely evolved. I almost felt like I wanted to be even more into reality. Like I've taken an abstract concept in my mind or whatever, visions I've had and put it, flat on a paper. Now I wanted to sort of like grab the viewer. One thing that I want to like pound into people or like beginning artists is just don't listen to anybody. Don't listen to